Animal Crossing was one of the first games I ever owned for a console. My siblings and I got a GameCube for Christmas in 2002, and we each got to pick one game to buy. I was lucky enough for my sister to pick Animal Crossing. At first we all loved it, and ended up having to get several memory cards so each of us could have our own towns. Eventually my brother moved on to his Xbox, and my sister mainly played on the Game Boy Advance, but I was always the avid GameCube fan. In later years, I ended up buying Animal Crossing Wild World for the Nintendo DS and City Folk for the Wii. While I never had a 3DS and couldn't play New Leaf, I did jump on the bandwagon pretty early when Pocket Camp was released for mobile. And like many, I pushed my way through the last 2 years of social distancing with the help of New Horizons on the Switch. New Horizons was almost everything I wanted in an Animal Crossing, and with the recent update, I got just about everything. But when I started up my island, something just didn't feel the same as it used to. I still quickly fell into collecting every creature to fill my museum, and started redecorating as soon as I could edit terrain, but the game itself just didn't feel as welcoming as it used to in the past. I realized eventually what was wrong. I started playing in March. In the past, every Animal Crossing I received or purchased was in the winter. I can't remember if I bought them myself or if I got them for Christmas, but I always managed to start up my town with snow on the ground. Now I know everyone has different nostalgia for the games of their childhood. It's so difficult going back to many of those games with their outdated graphics or old controls. Many games just don't feel the same, even when they're remade or updated with modern graphics. We all grasp at the same feelings that games of our youth provided. As we play through future releases, sequels, and remakes, we slowly adjust to the changes, and going back just feels off. But Animal Crossing is a bit different. Love it or hate it, Animal Crossing has remained basically unchanged since its inception. Sure, each game has its new added features, special NPCs, holidays, events, and collectibles, but at the heart of it, Animal Crossing is about relaxing, decorating your house, interacting with your beloved villagers, filling your museum, and beating unwanted NPCs with bug nets. So when each new game was released, I could start a fresh town and know exactly the process I wanted to follow. Buy every item, sell lots of fish, pay off debts, and fill my town with flowers, signs, and floor decorations to give it some character. But why was winter so crucial to that? Well, it's not. Not really, anyway. The season you start in really doesn't affect much aside from what creatures you can collect and what holidays you could have first. As long as you played for an entire year, you can basically see everything the game has to offer. And yet, starting in winter just made so much sense to me. When you start a new life in Cleveland, Athens, Buttville, or whatever you named your town, you're starting a fresh new world. One of the first tasks Tom Nook assigns to you is to plant some trees and flowers. When starting, your town rarely has any flowers in it, and that stark contrast of color in the winter is even more apparent. This town is basically empty. It only starts with a small handful of residents, a spattering of trees with only one fruit, no flowers, no decoration, no individuality of any kind aside from the layout of your rivers and bridges. Starting in winter gave it an almost bleak feeling. A town that felt forgotten, abandoned aside from a small collection of residents who called it home. As time went on, I started to add new things. Flowers spread across my village. New residents started plopping down houses, usually right on top of my newly planted flowers. And the little shack that Tom Nook sold wares from transformed into a giant 2-story capitalist dream. As winter slowly transformed into spring, we started to see the greens of the trees and patches of grass poking through the snow. Suddenly our town was vibrant and colorful, but not just because of the change of the season. The bright sun blended with the flora, as well as our thriving village full of decorations and personal touches, made every player excited to show off to fellow Animal Crossing enthusiasts. Even now, as I play through my world in New Horizons, I run through a fully developed town and think, boy, all these flowers are going to just pop when spring rolls around. But it's not just that. I love the subtle changes that winter brings. The snow-capped trees, the villagers dressed in sweaters and hats, the snowballs placed around just begging to be formed into the perfect snow monster. Suddenly a trip to the cafe with Brewster feels inviting, coming in from the fresh fallen snow into a warm, cozy atmosphere. The buzz of beetles and crickets is basically completely missing, aside from the occasional mole cricket. Everything just feels quiet. Plus those snowy nights before Toy Day are just always so gorgeous. The pine trees are strung up with beautiful lights. And if you listen really closely when it's snowing, you'll notice that the music has just a little hint of sleigh bells jingling in the background. And if I'm playing Animal Crossing in December, you know that it's going to be on somewhere in my house on New Year's Eve. I love celebrating with my townsfolk, watching them all dance and sing and watching the fireworks go off. It's just such a comfy, relaxing atmosphere. Even if you're alone on New Year's, your cute little town can feel so welcoming. Maybe it's just a nostalgia for comfy Christmases with my family, or bundling up with a blanket with the glow of the screen as the only light in the room. But to me, winter is the perfect way to play Animal Crossing. Winter in the Midwest is cold and miserable most of the time, and everyone deserves to be cozy and comfy while the freezing winds blow outside. And I really can't think of any more comforting game than Animal Crossing. Thanks for watching, guys. This is a new thing I'm trying to do called Walk With Me Gaming Tales, where I just want to talk about things that I feel are significant in games. I'm not doing in-depth research or putting together a whole big comparison between things, but this is just how I feel about these games and why I think they're important to me. If you like this or want to hear more, let me know in the comments, and please share around my videos. Thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next time.